This is the footage that lit a fire under the entire martial arts world. It shows Dr. Mike Israetel, a PhD in sport physiology and a giant in the fitness industry, looking, well, pretty clumsy during a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu roll. Almost immediately, the internet branded him a fraud, another fake black belt in a sport that absolutely despises them. On one side, you have critics using this awkward footage as proof that his rank is a total sham. One even said, not only is Dr. Mike's PhD potentially fraudulent, his black belt is also potentially very fraudulent. But on the other side, the man who actually gave him the belt tells a story that's way more complicated. So, who's right? We dug past the viral clips and the online outrage to get the full story and deliver a final verdict on whether his rank is the real deal. Before we get into grappling techniques and belt promotions, you need to understand who Dr. Mike Israetel is. To millions of people in the fitness world, he's a massive figure, literally and figuratively. As the co-founder of Renaissance Periodization, he built a huge business and personal brand by applying hard, evidence-based science to bodybuilding. He's not just some coach, he's an academic with a PhD, a competitive bodybuilder, and an author. His entire brand is built on being the smartest guy in the room who can also outlift you. And that's exactly why this whole thing blew up. The controversy started where they all do, online. A clip started making the rounds showing Israetel rolling with another bodybuilder. To most people, it just looked like two huge guys wrestling. But to anyone who trains BJJ, it was jarring. Israetel seemed stiff, awkward, and at times totally lost. His movements didn't have the smooth, efficient flow you expect from a black belt, a rank that takes a decade or more to earn. The reaction was instant and brutal. Reddit threads popped up with titles like, "Brother who give this guy black belt, we have to check this." The footage became the star witness in a trial by internet, with YouTubers breaking down every clumsy movement. And the timing couldn't have been worse. This wasn't happening in a vacuum. It came right after a much bigger controversy erupted over the legitimacy of his 2013 doctoral dissertation. With his main credential already taking hits, the BJJ clip felt like another crack in his expert persona. Critics started connecting the dots, creating a compelling story of a widespread fraud. The question on everyone's mind was, if one part of his credibility is shaky, what else is about to fall apart? To really get the outrage, you have to watch that footage like a grappler would. The viral clip, and a few others like it, became the prosecution's main evidence. Critics weren't just seeing a guy having a bad day. They saw a list of technical red flags that, to them, disqualified him from wearing a black belt. One of the biggest criticisms was his posture. In a few clips, when Israetel is on his back, he lies completely flat, turning into a stiff, unmoving block. This is basically BJJ 101 of what not to do. Practitioners are taught to stay on their side, create angles, and use their hips to control distance. Lying flat makes you a sitting duck for an opponent looking to pass your guard, and it's a habit that gets drilled out of you long before you get to the advanced belts. His offense didn't fare much better under scrutiny. Commentators pointed to what they called pathetic guard pulls, where he just flopped to the mat without getting any real grips or control. They said his passing game was the classic old man fat guy game, just using his size to lie on someone and wait for a mistake instead of using technique to create openings. But maybe the most damning evidence for many was the kind of submission he used in one video. In a collab with a much smaller, untrained opponent, the only submission he managed to get after a long roll was a neck crank. While a neck crank can work, it's often seen as a low-skill, brute force move. For a black belt, who should have an arsenal of sophisticated chokes and joint locks, to use a simple crank on a total novice was seen as a huge knock against his technical skills. The BJJ community is extremely protective of its standards, thanks to infamous fakes like Mr. Moneyberg, who bought his black belt and was publicly shamed for it. The fear of belt inflation is real, and for many, Israetel's performance looked way too similar to known frauds. They saw a guy with a black belt who didn't seem to embody the art. And in a merit-based culture like BJJ, that's the worst crime you can commit. Just when the internet was ready to declare him guilty, a key witness stepped forward, Josh Vogel, the man who actually promoted Mike Israetel to black belt. Vogel is a respected third-degree black belt from the Jiu-Jitsu company in Philadelphia, a totally legitimate academy. His explanation didn't just offer a new opinion, it provided critical context that the online critics had completely missed. First, he addressed the viral video head-on. This video was from a couple years ago when he was a brown belt, Vogel explained, adding that Mike hadn't trained BJJ in a year or so and was focused mainly on bodybuilding. This one detail changes everything. The clip wasn't a black belt performing badly, it was a brown belt who was rusty after a year off, having a casual roll with a buddy. That distinction is huge. A brown belt is advanced, sure, but there's still a student on the way to black belt. Plus, anyone who's taken a year off from a complex skill knows you come back rusty. Your timing is off, your instincts are dull. What the internet was calling fraudulent black belt jiu-jitsu was really just the awkward phase of a guy getting back into his hobby. Vogel also talked about Israetel's unique style. He explained that Mike's body is a major factor in how he moves. Because he is basically a solid ball of muscle, his joints don't safely move the same way most people's joints do, Vogel said. So he plays a very specific game that he understands well. This isn't an excuse, it's biomechanics. Extreme muscle mass in the chest and shoulders can physically stop you from doing classic BJJ moves. Finally, Vogel clarified why these roles were being filmed in the first place. He said Mike trains BJJ as a hobby he loves, not as a pro. When he films it for his fitness channel, he's often just goofing around and having fun for the cameras. The roles that were being analyzed like a crime scene were never meant to be serious displays of his absolute best jiu-jitsu. Vogel's defense paints a picture of a legitimate if unusual practitioner, not a fraud. It suggests the internet took one clip out of context, misunderstood his physical limitations, and missed the playful intent. It makes you wonder, was everyone really analyzing evidence or just seeing what they wanted to see? Now that the viral clip has some context, we have to look at Israetel's actual history in the sport. A black belt isn't about one role, it's about a long, documented journey. And when you look at Mike Israetel's journey, you find a legitimate path. Israetel started training BJJ around 2012 while juggling a demanding career as a pro bodybuilder. He trained under Josh Vogel, moving steadily through the ranks from white to black, getting his black belt in late 2024. This wasn't some quick promotion, it was the result of over a decade of training at a credible school under a respected coach. And crucially, Israetel didn't just train, he competed. Competition is the ultimate test in BJJ. There's no faking it when someone is actively trying to choke you unconscious, and records show Israetel has competed multiple times over the years. One of the best examples comes from when he was a purple belt. At a tournament, Israetel won both his weight class and the absolute division, where competitors of all sizes face off. According to teammates, he didn't win with fancy, elegant technique. He won with overwhelming physical pressure and a powerful passing game that his opponents just couldn't handle. And that's a completely valid way to do jiu-jitsu. The art is about using your attributes to your advantage. For some, it's flexibility. For Israetel, it's his incredible strength and size. While his style might not be pretty to watch, his success in competition proves it was effective and that his skills were tested against resisting opponents. This documented history is a world away from the fraud narrative painted by a few out-of-context clips. One of the most misunderstood parts of this whole debate is the simple fact of Mike Israetel's body. You can't analyze his jiu-jitsu without recognizing that he's not a typical grappler. He's an elite bodybuilder, and that changes the game entirely. His coach, Josh Vogel, nailed it when he called him a solid ball of muscle. whose joints don't move normally. That's not an exaggeration. Years of hypertrophy training have fundamentally changed his body. The sheer size of his pecs and delts limits how he can move his arms. His massive neck and traps make him hard to choke, but also restrict his own head movement. His powerful legs are great for driving forward, but lack the dexterity for a lot of modern guard techniques. This isn't an excuse for bad technique, it's a physical reality that requires adaptation. BJJ is all about problem solving. Every person has to figure out how to make the art work for their body type. Israetel's problem is just more extreme than most. So his game had to evolve around these limits. That's likely why he uses a heavy pressure, top dominant style. It plays to his strengths, his weight and power, while avoiding movements his body just can't do. You won't see him inverting or playing a flexible spider guard because his body makes those moves inefficient and even unsafe for his joints. Instead of being a sign of a fake black belt, his ability to create an effective game within these major constraints is actually proof of his BJJ knowledge. He did the core task of jiu-jitsu. He identified a problem, his physical limits, and engineered a technical solution, his pressure game, that works for him. This is the bodybuilder game, and understanding it is key to fairly judging his skill. While internet comments are loud, they aren't always reliable. For a real assessment, you need a professional's opinion. That perspective came from pro competitor William Tackett, who gave a technical breakdown of Israetel's rolling Tackett's analysis wasn't a takedown or a free pass. It was a balanced, technical look that found both real weaknesses and clear strengths. On the critical side, Tackett pointed out some of the same things others noticed. He mentioned issues with Israetel's defense from the turtle position and a lack of consistent elbow-to-knee connection, which is a fundamental part of a strong defensive frame. These are real technical flaws you might see in a hobbyist black belt who isn't training full-time. They are not, however, the signs of a total fraud. But Tackett also recognized Israetel's solid fundamentals. He saw a strategic approach to his rolling and good energy management, a classic sign of an experienced grappler. This goes directly against the idea that Israetel is just a clumsy brute. He's thinking, planning, and pacing himself, things a novice can't do. Ultimately, Tackett's analysis suggests Mike Israetel is exactly what he appears to be, an average hobbyist black belt. He has a game built for his body, solid fundamentals, and clear holes in his technique. Just like most people who train BJJ for fun, he's not a world champion, but he's not a fake. He's simply a legitimate black belt who practices the art as a hobby. That nuanced take cuts through the extreme online narratives and lands on a truth that's much more believable. He's good, but he's not perfect. And that's perfectly legitimate. To really get why this blew up, you have to zoom out. This wasn't just about jiu-jitsu. It was the result of a perfect storm, a public persona, social media algorithms, and a pre-existing credibility crisis. A huge factor was Israetel's own brand. For years, he built his reputation on being an intellectual authority in fitness, often delivering his opinions with an air of superiority. He didn't just give advice, he made scientific pronouncements, with his PhD acting as both a shield and a sword. That style wins you fans, but it also paints a giant target on your back. When you build a brand on being infallible, any crack in the foundation gets a ton of attention. The first major crack had nothing to do with a gym. Critics, led by other online creators, went after his 2013 doctoral dissertation, claiming it was weak and full of errors. Whether those critiques were fair or not, the damage was done. His core credential, the PhD that gave him his authority, was now being openly questioned. It was in this climate of doubt that the BJJ controversy landed. Content creators, seeing the huge engagement from the PhD drama, found fresh meat figures like Greg Doucette, another fitness YouTuber, piled on, driven by what seemed to be a desire for clicks and views. Criticizing Dr. Mike had become a guaranteed way to get engagement. This shows you how online culture works. When a public figure's credentials in one area are attacked, people start questioning everything else. Concerns about his dissertation bled into skepticism about his martial arts rank, even though they're totally unrelated. The internet wasn't just evaluating his jiu-jitsu, it was cashing in on a bigger controversy. The BJJ belt simply became a stand-in for the PhD, another credential to attack to tear down his expert identity. The whole affair says less about Mike Israetel's grappling and more about how public perception and online outrage can create a story that's way more dramatic than reality. So after looking at the viral clips, the instructor's testimony, the competition history, and the online drama, where do we land? Is Dr. Mike Israetel's BJJ black belt legit? Based on all the available evidence, the answer is yes. Let's just recap the facts. The main piece of evidence from critics, the awkward video, is totally misleading. It shows a rusty brown belt after a year off, not a seasoned black belt. This context is everything. His promotion is legitimate. He got his black belt from a respected instructor, Josh Vogel. After more than a decade of training at a real school, it wasn't bought or handed out. He has a history of testing his skills in competition. His wins at purple belt prove he can handle himself against resisting opponents in a sanctioned setting. His ugly style is actually a smart adaptation to his extreme bodybuilding physique. Building a game around his strengths and limitations is a sign of grappling intelligence, not a lack of it. And finally, a technical analysis from a pro competitor confirms it. It paints a picture of a competent, hobbyist black belt with both strengths and weaknesses, the definition of most recreational black belts. So, is he some world-beating black belt? Almost certainly not. But the vast majority of black belts aren't elite competitors. They are people who love the art and train hard around their jobs and families. Dr. Mike Israetel fits right into that category. He's a passionate, long-term student who earned his rank. The controversy really says more about online outrage culture than anything else. It shows how a clip without context can become a weapon and how doubt in one area can poison everything else. Mike Israetel may not be the slickest black belt you'll ever see, but by all reasonable standards, he's a legitimate one. After hearing the full story, what do you think? Is his black belt the real deal? Let me know your verdict in the comments below.